If your happiness depends on the actions of others, you're at mercy of things that you can't control.
The hardest part of fame wasn't the pressure. It was pretending I was okay every single day. I had everything people dream about: fame, money, success. But I still felt empty. Every day, I kept showing up for everyone else while slowly disappearing from myself. And the worst part was, nobody could see it happening. This was the hidden reality behind Kendall Jenner during the years she was becoming one of the most recognizable women in the world. To millions of people, she looked untouchable: luxury, runways, perfect photos, perfect life. But behind the cameras, Kendall Jenner was quietly fighting something much deeper: the pressure to constantly perform, the fear of disappointing people, and the terrifying realization that fame was slowly pulling her away from herself. Before the global fame, before fashion campaigns and headlines, Kendall Jenner was just a quiet kid growing up in a family the entire world was watching. And that changes a person. Most children grow up making mistakes privately. Kendall grew up with cameras documenting everything, every awkward phase, every insecurity, every emotion. The world watched her grow up in real time. And when that happens, you stop learning who you are naturally. You start learning who people expect you to become. That pressure followed her everywhere. Even as a teenager, Kendall already felt different from the image people had of her family. While everyone around her seemed loud and naturally social, she was quieter, more reserved. She actually enjoyed being alone, spending time with animals, playing video games in her room, riding horses for hours without speaking to anyone. That was peace for her. But peace becomes difficult when your life turns into a business. At just 14 years old, Kendall made a decision that would completely change her future. She wanted to become a model, and once she made that decision, she obsessed over it, relentlessly. Runways, castings, travel, photo shoots. While most teenagers were figuring out high school, Kendall was learning how to survive one of the most brutal industries in the world. And for years, she pushed herself harder and harder, because deep down, she felt like she had to prove herself, not just to the industry, to the world. There were always whispers around her success. She only made it because of her family. She's privileged. She didn't earn this. And even though she rarely responded publicly, those words still reached her. People assume fame makes criticism easier. It doesn't. It just makes criticism louder. And over time, Kendall became trapped inside a dangerous cycle. Work harder, say yes to everything, never slow down, never disappoint anyone. Because in Hollywood, the moment you stop moving, you're terrified people will forget you. So she kept going, even when she was exhausted, even when her anxiety started growing, even when she no longer recognized herself. There was a point where it felt like I was disappearing, not physically, emotionally, because constantly performing for the world eventually disconnects you from your real identity. And Kendall was beginning to feel that disconnect deeply. At the height of her career, she was everywhere. Magazine covers, luxury campaigns, runway shows across the world. From the outside, it looked like she had achieved everything, but internally, she was overwhelmed. The pressure never stopped, and social media only made it worse, because suddenly, millions of strangers had opinions about every part of her life: how she looked, how she acted, who she dated, what she said. People who had never met her spoke about her like they knew her personally, and slowly, that noise started affecting her mentally. Because when you hear opinions about yourself every single day, eventually you begin questioning your own reality. That's one of the darkest parts of fame nobody talks about. You lose control of your own identity. The public creates a version of you and then expects you to live inside it forever. For Kendall, the emotional weight became impossible to ignore. She started experiencing severe anxiety, panic attacks, moments where her body physically reacted to the stress she had been carrying for years. And the scary part was, everything around her still looked successful, which made it even harder to explain, because people assume mental health struggles only happen when someone's life is falling apart. But sometimes they happen when your life looks perfect from the outside. That's what Kendall's experienced so isolating. She felt pressure to stay grateful constantly, to never complain, because how could someone with fame, money, and opportunity admit they were struggling mentally? But pain doesn't care about status. Anxiety doesn't care about success. And eventually, Kendall realized something important. She couldn't continue living for everyone else's expectations, because it was destroying her peace internally. So she started changing her life slowly, not dramatically, quietly. She began prioritizing things that made her feel human again. Horses, nature, solitude, self-care, therapy, meditation, simple things, real things. For the first time in years, she stopped chasing constant validation and started asking herself a different question: what actually makes me happy? That question changed everything, because for most of her life, happiness had been connected to achievement, bookings, success, recognition. But eventually, she realized something dangerous. If your happiness depends on other people approving of you, then your happiness is never truly yours. And that realization hit her hard, because fame trains people to seek approval constantly. Every post, every appearance, every interview, you start measuring your worth through reactions, through headlines, through strangers online deciding whether you're enough that day. And Kendall was exhausted by it. There were moments where it felt like I was losing myself trying to make everyone happy. That became one of the biggest turning points of her life, because she finally understood peace matters more than performance. So she started setting boundaries, something that sounds simple but is incredibly difficult in an industry built on access and pressure. She began saying no, working less, protecting her energy, protecting her mental health, and not everyone liked that. Some people around her pushed back, because when someone benefits from your constant availability, they don't always want you to slow down. But Kendall had reached a point where she knew continuing the same lifestyle would destroy her emotionally. So she chose herself. And honestly, that might have been the bravest thing she's ever done. Not walking a runway, not facing cameras, not becoming famous, but choosing her well-being in a world that constantly demanded more from her. That shift completely changed the way she viewed life. She stopped glorifying non-stop hustle, stopped trying to prove herself every second, stopped chasing perfection. Instead, she started valuing simplicity, quiet mornings, journaling, cold plunges, being alone peacefully, spending time with animals, things that grounded her back into reality. Because fame creates chaos, and chaos can slowly consume you if you never step away from it. One of the most powerful realizations Kendall shared was understanding that strangers only see fragments of her life, not the full human being, just edited moments, headlines, clips online. And once she accepted that, she stopped trying to control public opinion, because it's impossible. No matter how successful you become, there will always be people misunderstanding you, criticizing you, projecting onto you. And if your self-worth depends on changing their minds, then you'll lose yourself forever. That realization gave her freedom, not freedom from fame, but freedom from needing everyone's approval. And maybe that's the deepest part of Kendall Jenner's story.
The world saw a supermodel living a dream life, but privately, she was learning one of the hardest lessons any person can learn. You cannot sacrifice your peace just to become who everyone else wants you to be, because eventually you wake up one day and realize you no longer know yourself at all. Sometimes the people who seem the most successful externally are fighting the biggest battles internally. And maybe this story isn't really about Kendall Jenner at all. Maybe it's about anyone who's spent too much time trying to become the version of themselves that other people expect. The version that never says no, never slows down, never struggles. But real peace begins the moment you stop performing for the world and start listening to yourself again. Because protecting your mental health is not selfish. Setting boundaries is not weakness. And losing yourself to make everyone else comfortable is a price nobody should have to pay.